Bigger. So we're going live on Tommy's Twitter. I want you singing, oh, Tommy. Not yet. When I put my hand up, start singing. Bigger. I'm just waiting for the all clear. Bigger.
Stress again, yeah? Well, I'm in so many group chats from so many different groups of lads all over the country, men and women, but the message is clear. No face coverings, smiles, be happy, do not rise to provocation. Do you know, I've said this every time, in the last 4 events, I didn't need to say it. The last few, I didn't need to say it, because everyone knows what they're coming for. They're coming with their families, their mums are coming with them. So let's respect ourselves. Let's respect the movement that's been created, which is a voice for everyone. And let's have a bloody good time on Saturday. Let's enjoy it. Like my mum said to me, enjoy it, Stephen, enjoy it. Let's enjoy every minute of it as you stand there and look around and see our flag. Do you know, as I said, you could have, just 8 weeks ago, you could have drove from one end of Britain to the other without seeing any of our nation's flags. I think that's gone forever now. So what we're witnessing is beautiful to see. From Scotland to Wales to Northern Ireland, across England. It's fucking beautiful, man. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing people's flags, their banners, their outfits, their costumes. Come and have a good time, yeah? I look forward to marching, celebrating and enjoying a historic date in our country, in our generation. This is the moment. The line in the sand is drawn. London has been chosen. It's the capital of our country, but it's the capital for the world. The world is coming, trust me. And we've got Japanese, Australian, American, Israeli. They're coming from every country in the world. Now, what does that do? People say, oh, why are there all these other non-British people speaking? Because it's about uniting the kingdom, but these problems affect every country in the West. It's an attack on the West. It's an attack on Europe. It's an attack on all of us. They don't want us unified. Yeah, they don't want every party in Europe and every patriot in Europe unified together. That's the last thing they want. They want us separated. They want England separated from Ireland, all the patriots separated, arguing, the Scottish arguing. Well, we're not going to argue with each other. We're going to unify. We're coming together, yeah? Against you, against the globalists, against the establishment. There has been a globalist revolution going on for decades. The breakdown of the nation, the breakdown of patriotism, the attack on family, the feminization of men. That's a globalist revolution. We are the counter-revolution. What does counter-revolution mean? It means we want to bring it back to how it was. How was it? It was safe. It was Christian. It was beautiful. 13th September, come on! Got a lot to do till then. But I just got in the gym. I didn't get in yesterday. I didn't have time. That's my other...
Just now, Tommy Robinson has dropped his biggest announcement yet. A call that could shake Britain to its core. September 13th is no longer just another date on the calendar. It has become a line in the sand. A rallying cry for thousands across the nation who believe this is their moment to take a stand. Robinson has declared London as the battlefield of ideas, the stage where patriots will march, families will gather, and the world will be watching. Police are already on high alert, warnings have gone out, and yet the call is spreading faster than anyone imagined. From small towns in the north to the streets of Belfast and the valleys of Wales, people are preparing. But the question now hangs heavy in the air. Will this march truly remain the peaceful celebration Robinson promises? Or is Britain heading straight into one of the most tense showdowns of our generation? Tommy Robinson's voice carried urgency, not anger, when he spoke to his supporters this week. He wasn't calling for fists or fury. He was calling for something far more calculated. Smiles, flags, banners, families. He told his supporters to keep their faces uncovered, to walk proudly, and to show the nation that this movement was not about hate, but about visibility, about strength, about presence. It was a striking change in tone from the confrontational image that has long defined his career. Instead of aggression, Robinson chose symbolism. Instead of rage, he called for celebration. Yet beneath that call for calm, there was a much larger storm brewing. Because make no mistake, September 13th is not just about waving flags. It is about power, it is about identity, and it is about sending a message to those in Westminster, the media, and the police that his supporters are no longer willing to be silenced. For Robinson, this march is more than just another protest. He framed it as a historic event. The moment, the line in the sand, as he called it. He told his supporters that London, the capital of Britain, has now become the capital of a much wider battle. The battle for Western values, for patriotism, and for the right to speak freely. And it is not just British voices he expects. Robinson claims supporters are coming from across the world, from the United States, from Israel, from Australia, even from Japan. To him, the symbolism is clear. The march is not just about Britain, it is about a global resistance, a counter-revolution against what he calls the globalist attack on nations, families, and faith. That narrative is powerful and it resonates deeply with people who feel left behind by politics, ignored by elites, and silenced by institutions. But while Robinson speaks of unity, flags, and families, the state is preparing for something very different. The Metropolitan Police are on full alert, special units are being briefed, intelligence officers are monitoring online channels, and government officials are quietly warning of potential disturbances. Authorities know the weight that comes with Robinson's words. They know that thousands may take to the streets, and even if the majority follow Robinson's advice to remain calm, it only takes one spark, one argument, one clash, one provocation to turn smiles into chaos. This is why, behind the calm smile Robinson urges, the government sees risk, and risk, in their eyes, must be contained. Already, the language of innocent arrests is being whispered, a sign that police might not wait for violence to break out before acting. Preventive measures, preemptive action, the type of strategies designed to neutralise the movement before it gains momentum. This looming clash between image and authority makes September 13th a date loaded with tension. Robinson's side wants flags, songs, and pride. The police want control, quiet streets, and obedience, and somewhere in between lies the real battlefield, the perception of the march. If Robinson's supporters flood London with joy, laughter, and banners, the optics could reshape how his movement is seen, both by Britain and the wider world. If, however, even a handful of clashes erupt, if even a few provocateurs stir violence, the narrative will collapse back into the one Robinson's enemies are waiting for: anger, extremism, and division. This is why his instructions have been so sharp, so deliberate. He knows the cameras will be everywhere. He knows the headlines will be written before the march even begins. And he knows that the only way to break through the walls of media hostility is to present something they cannot twist so easily, like families waving flags, children smiling, and patriots walking peacefully through the streets of London. Still, critics are not convinced. They argue that no matter how many times Robinson tells people to smile, the march will carry an undercurrent of defiance and division. They warn that these rallies have always been about more than celebration. They are about challenging authority, pushing against the limits of what the state will tolerate. And they point out the growing tension in Britain itself and rising costs, cultural divides, political frustration. These, they say, are dry leaves waiting for a spark. In such an atmosphere, even a peaceful march can tip into confrontation. Police know it, politicians know it, and Robinson himself knows it, which is why this event has become not just a test for him and his followers, but a test for the entire system. Can Britain allow a march of this size, with this symbolism, to unfold without cracking down? Or will September 13th become the day the state shows just how far it is willing to go to contain dissent? The truth is, Robinson has managed to put the government in a difficult position. If they come down hard, arresting people before the march even begins, they risk looking like the very authoritarian force Robinson has spent years warning against. But if they hold back, if they allow the march to unfold in full view of the cameras, then Robinson gets exactly what he wants. Proof that his movement is not a threat, but a celebration, a unifying force that cannot be ignored. This is the tension gripping London now, a tension that will only grow as September 13th draws closer. Robinson has set the stage. His supporters are ready, and the police are preparing. What happens on that day will not just be about flags or smiles. It will be about Britain's future, its freedoms, and the fragile balance between control and resistance. As September 13th inches closer, the pressure on Britain's institutions is building like a drumbeat. The government knows it, the media feels it, and the police are caught in the middle. Every whisper from Robinson's camp adds another layer of urgency, and every leaked memo from the Metropolitan Police fuels speculation, because this is not just about one man calling a march. This is about what happens when thousands of people from every corner of Britain converge on London under a single banner of unity and defiance. The sheer scale of it forces uncomfortable questions. Who truly holds the power in Britain? The elected politicians in Westminster, the monarchy that still carries symbolic weight, or the people themselves when they decide they've had enough? Robinson's framing of the march as a counter-revolution is deliberate. He calls it a pushback against decades of what he describes as globalist erosion, the weakening of borders, the loss of identity, the breakdown of families, and the silencing of patriotism. To his followers, this is not conspiracy talk. It is lived reality. They see it in their towns, in their schools, in their workplaces. They feel ignored by elites who sneer at the Union Jack but cheer for every other flag. Robinson taps into that frustration, giving it a voice, a direction, and now a date. September 13th becomes a symbol not only of defiance but of reclamation, a day when people believe they can be seen again. But this symbolism cuts both ways. For those opposed to Robinson, the march represents a threat, a dangerous revival of nationalism, a coded attack on multicultural Britain, a dog whistle for confrontation. They argue that no matter how many times Robinson insists the march will be peaceful, the core of his message still divides. This is why critics describe September 13th as a powder keg. One side sees it as the celebration of identity, the other sees it as the return of extremism dressed in smiles and flags, and in between stands the police tasked with keeping order while knowing that whatever they do will be criticised. If they allow the march to proceed, they'll be accused of enabling. If they crack down, they'll be accused of silencing dissent. The police are trapped in a no-win scenario, and Robinson knows it. Already there are reports that specialist riot units are being readied. Hotels around London are quietly booking out to officers being drafted in from other regions. Surveillance of online groups has intensified. Authorities are bracing, not only for Robinson's supporters, but for counter-protesters, who are expected to gather in significant numbers. This raises the stakes even higher. Two opposing crowds, both determined, both passionate, both convinced they are right. It only takes a single spark, a single confrontation to unleash chaos. And in today's age of smartphones and instant broadcast, every moment will be captured, clipped and shared across the world. Robinson knows that imagery is everything. A sea of flags and smiling families could electrify his supporters globally. But footage of clashes, smoke and arrests would give his opponents exactly the ammunition they crave. The tension has now spilled into politics. MPs have begun to weigh in, some demanding that the march be banned outright. They argue that public safety outweighs the right to protest, that Robinson's history makes this gathering inherently dangerous. Others, though quietly, warn that banning it would only play into his hands, proving his claim that free speech is under attack in Britain. Within government circles, there is no consensus. Some want to contain, some want to confront. But none can deny that Robinson has forced them into a corner. He has set the agenda, and they are reacting to him. For a man dismissed so often as irrelevant, he suddenly holds the nation's attention in a way few activists ever could. And beyond politics lies the monarchy itself. Though King Charles will not openly comment, the symbolism of thousands marching through his capital on September 13th cannot be ignored. The monarchy has long presented itself as above the fray of politics, but Robinson's march challenges that neutrality, because in the eyes of many, silence will be interpreted as complicity. And if violence erupts, questions will be asked. Where was the leadership? Where was the voice calling for unity? Robinson has perhaps intentionally placed the Crown in a delicate position. The march is not just about Parliament or police, it casts a shadow across every institution that claims to represent the nation. But perhaps the most striking feature of Robinson's campaign is how he has chosen to frame it around families. He knows the images of mothers, fathers and children marching will be powerful. He knows they will counter the stereotype of angry men in hoods. He knows they will soften the optics and make it harder for critics to paint the event as inherently violent. This is his strategic gamble to show Britain and the world that his movement is not on the fringes, but rooted in everyday people. Yet critics argue this is a thin disguise, that behind the flags and smiles, the same hard edges remain. And this is where the suspense lies. Which image will prevail on September 13th? The peaceful celebration Robinson promises, or the confrontation so many fear is inevitable? Every day until the march adds to the sense of anticipation. Supporters are sharing plans, designing banners, booking travel. Counter-groups are organising as well, determined to confront what they see as dangerous nationalism. The police are caught in a countdown, preparing for scenarios ranging from calm processions to full-blown clashes. And the government, paralysed by indecision, watches nervously as the date approaches. In truth, no one knows how September 13th will unfold. What is certain, however, is that it will not pass quietly. Whatever happens in London on that day will ripple far beyond the streets of the capital. It will send a message to Britain, to Europe, to the world, that the battle for identity, freedom and control is no longer confined to speeches and debates. It is spilling into the streets, into the heart of the nation, where the line in the sand has been drawn. The countdown is almost over and Britain now stands on edge. September 13th is not a date that crept quietly into the calendar. It has thundered into national consciousness. Every headline, every whisper in Westminster, every late-night meeting inside police headquarters carries the same question. What happens when Tommy Robinson's march hits the streets of London? This is no longer about whether it will be large, whether it will be peaceful, or whether it will be confrontational. It has become about what this moment will represent in the wider story of Britain. Because once thousands of people flood London with flags and chants, there will be no turning back. The images will burn into the memory of the nation, either as proof of a movement that broke free from the shadows or as a warning of how fragile order has become. The police know they are walking a tightrope. Their presence must be strong enough to deter violence, yet not so overwhelming that it looks like an occupying force. They have trained for protests before, but this march is different. The sheer symbolism of Robinson leading thousands down the capital streets makes it unlike anything they have faced in recent years. Some officers privately admit they fear orders to make innocent arrests before the march even begins. That phrase, innocent arrests, haunts the planning rooms. It means detaining people not because they have acted violently, but because they might. It means neutralising voices before they are even heard. To Robinson's supporters, such an approach would be seen as the ultimate proof that Britain is no longer a free nation. To the authorities, it is a tool to prevent chaos. And hanging between the two is the possibility of a spark that could ignite nationwide anger. Robinson himself has been relentless in shaping the narrative. His words about smiles, about flags, about families are not casual. They are designed to create an image that the establishment cannot easily attack. He knows the cameras will be fixed on every step of the march. He knows critics are waiting for one slip, one angry outburst, one brawl to prove their point. And that is why he has doubled down on discipline, telling his supporters to rise above provocation. His strategy is clear: force the establishment into a corner by presenting something too positive to be dismissed, too family-friendly to be smeared as violent extremism. If the march succeeds on those terms, Robinson will have done more than organise the protest. He will have rebranded his movement in front of the nation and the world. But opponents are preparing too. Counter-protesters, some small and local, others organised and vocal, are mobilising with just as much passion. They argue that Robinson's march is not about celebration, but about division, that the smiles are a mask for something darker. The risk is obvious. Two opposing forces meeting in the heart of London, both convinced of their righteousness, both unwilling to back down. This is the scenario the police fear most, because even if 99% remain calm, the other 1% can drag the entire day into chaos. A single bottle thrown, a single clash caught on camera, and the headlines will write themselves. That is why September 13th feels like standing on a knife's edge, where every step could lead to triumph or disaster. The international spotlight makes the stakes even higher. Robinson's claim that supporters from the United States, Israel, Japan and beyond will march alongside Britons means the world is watching. Global media outlets are already preparing coverage. For allies of Robinson, this will be a chance to show that their cause is not isolated, but part of a wider struggle across the West. For his critics, it will be a chance to portray Britain as a warning sign, a country where nationalism is rising once more under the guise of celebration. Either way, London will not simply be hosting a march. It will be hosting a narrative war, one that stretches far beyond its own borders. And then there is the political fallout. Keir Starmer's government will be judged on how it handles the day. Too soft and he looks weak. Too harsh and he looks authoritarian. The monarchy too cannot escape the symbolism. King Charles may not speak, but silence can be just as loud. If violence erupts, if families are seen being dragged away in arrests, people will ask, who is defending Britain's freedoms? And if the day passes peacefully with flags waving and Robinson smiling, then many will question why the establishment tried so hard to stop it. Either way, September 13th will leave a mark on British politics that cannot be erased. So what will it be? A peaceful sea of flags proving Robinson's movement can no longer be ignored, or a day of arrests, confrontations and headlines that confirm the fears of his critics. That is the suspense gripping Britain tonight. The streets of London are not just preparing for a march. They are preparing for a test, a confrontation between authority and defiance, between order and freedom, between the nation Britain has become and the nation some believe it must return to. Robinson has called it a line in the sand. Soon we will all see what happens when that line is crossed.